Bloomberg Audio Studios. Podcasts, radio, news.
The Stock Movers Report, your roundup of companies making moves in the stock market, harnessing the power of Bloomberg data.
Now let's have a look at the stocks that are on the move today here in Europe. I'm Caroline Hepker alongside Bloomberg reporter Chloe Millay. Good morning, Chloe.
Good morning.
So it's September, we're back to business.
Indeed.
BAE Systems, big news involving them this morning.
Yeah, so we've seen quite a lot of positive movements across the European defence sector this morning. But as you mentioned, BAE was the particular winner. And what is really driving that this morning is that Norway picked the UK as a supplier of warships to its navy. And this is a £10 billion deal, and a deal that BAE will have a really key role to play in. So the UK Defence Ministry said that this deal would support 4,000 jobs in the UK, and more than half of them will be at the BAE shipyards in Glasgow. So this is definitely a major win for BAE, which is obviously so central to the production of these frigates. But also other defence names like defence contractor Babcock, engine maker Rolls-Royce, they're also have got a role to play in that, and both of those were also up this morning on the back of that news. Norway has considered France, Germany and the US as potential partners, but the UK won, and that is obviously also a win for Keir Starmer, who's been really talking a lot about boosting that British defence industry.
Yeah, absolutely. These are the Type 26 frigates, £10 billion deal. It is huge news, isn't it? Even as defence stocks have been the outperformers over the course of this year in Europe. So very interesting that the UK is actually getting some of that money, isn't it, in terms of defence spending. Let's think about things domestically too, though. Tesco on the move. Why?
So Tesco is also up this morning, and that's on the back of a raised price target at JPMorgan. So JPMorgan placed Tesco on a positive catalyst watch, and it said that momentum looks really solid. That's both over the near term and the medium term. It doesn't really expect it to raise its outlook just yet at the next earnings that we'll have in October, but said that the guidance range could be potentially narrowed towards the high end of that guidance. The latest update that we got from Tesco this summer was actually very positive, so that's kind of a continuation of this. We saw solid sales growth in market share as well. So it's actually managed to do quite well despite a very competitive pricing environment in the UK, where we saw low cost retailers like Aldi and Lidl really driving down those prices. But Tesco has managed to hold up and really stand out in that environment.
Even though we've seen huge pressure on prices and food inflation in the UK, that's been very, very difficult in recent months. Now, President Trump has upended so many industries, but including the wind farm production sector. And this is where Orsted comes in, European company with lots of US exposure.
Yeah, absolutely. So it was a bit of a relief this morning for Orsted after some very, very tough weeks for that company. So Equinor, which is the second biggest shareholder in Orsted, said that it intends to back Orsted's rights issue, which means that this is the first major investor after the Danish government to back that stock sell. So if we cast our minds back to early August, Orsted had announced a $9.4 billion capital raise to try and shore up its business, and that is because of how vulnerable, as you mentioned, it is to Trump's hatred of wind energy and offshore wind energy in particular, and all of his attempts to kind of block that particular industry. And that announcement about the share sale really led the stock plunging. It wiped a third of the company's value. And then right after that, Trump also ordered Orsted to stop working on a Revolution wind farm, which is a $6.3 billion project off the coast of the US, and that was really close to completion. So that was kind of a double whammy for Orsted, and that really hurt the shares. So having Equinor kind of saying that it plans to maintain its 10% stake, and that it will kind of support that rights issue, that is much needed support for the company. So the shares breathed a little sigh of relief, although of course the fact remains that Trump will likely continue to block those wind projects, and so medium-term prospects have deteriorated quite a bit for Orsted regardless.
The Stock Movers Report from Bloomberg Radio. Check back with us throughout the day for the latest roundup of companies making news on Wall Street. And for the latest market-moving headlines, listen to Bloomberg Radio live. Catch us on YouTube, Bloomberg.com, and on Apple CarPlay and Android Auto with the Bloomberg Business app.